What's up, everyone? This is the Destroyer229, and welcome back to Let's Play Persona 3 FES. All the characters are probably wondering what the crap I just did right now, but whatever. Last time, we got a lot of information based on what personas and shadows were. God dang it. Junpei joined the crew, and we are about to begin our first exploration into the shadow nest known as Tartarus. In this episode, we are going to take Junpei and Yukari, and we're going to go and explore this labyrinth. But before we do that, with our previous visit into the Velvet Room, we were finally given access to a menu. By hitting triangle, we get access to an actual menu. Hitting triangle prior to this point does absolutely nothing. So from here, we get to see quite a bit of information, including our current level, what our current stats are, like HP and SP, our status, and what level our currently equipped persona is. Now, you'll recall previously when we were being lectured by Mr. Ikedo? Crap, I forgot his name already. But the classic lit teacher, and we could have potentially fallen asleep. If we had chosen to sleep, that is the different option of the status ailment with good. So, say there's a lecture and I choose to fall asleep and I'm a good status ailment, I'll be able to get into great status ailment, which means that my attacks are a lot more accurate and I have a higher chance of getting a critical hit. There's also good, which is standard, and then two bad status ailments, being tired and sick. You don't want to be fighting when you're either of those status ailments. If we hand over the skill, we'll be able to basically utilize what all of our current persona's skills, as well as taking a look at what our other party members are in terms of their levels and stats. Basically, if they're suffering under a status ailment, we could cure them with our abilities, or if they need healing, we can do it from here as well. So that's something we could potentially do. There are various items that we can also use for this same purpose. However, we don't have any items. We currently have pretty plain equipment. There are 4 pieces of armor that we can equip. There is a weapon, body armor, shoes, and accessory. So, obviously, weapon is what our base attacker is if we're not utilizing a persona. Body armor is regular defense, shoes are for evasion, and then special does any number of special effects. And then special key items that we get along the way. Currently, we only have the velvet key. So those are what our items are. Persona menu. I am sorry that this is pretty heavy on tutorial, but this episode pretty much is going through the menu and Tartarus. Although we'll probably do a few other things afterwards as well. Here we can take a look of all of our available personas. As Igor said, we have a unique ability that allows us to utilize more than one persona. Our comrades can only use one, but we can have a lot. We can have a lot of personas. Currently, I believe we can only have up to 8 equipped. However, as we progress further, we'll be able to equip more personas. And there's well over 100 personas total. Right now, all we have is Orpheus. Equipment allows us to actually change our equipment. So any sort of weapon, armor. Status shows what our current stats are looking like. So you see the 3 stats above: academics, charm, and courage. Like I said before, these stats will affect certain events outside of Tartarus. So basically our normal day-to-day activities. They'll allow us to access certain events, certain social links, those types of things. So it is very much in our best interest to raise these stats up as much as possible. It also allows us to look at our current level and how much experience we need to level up, as well as another look at our persona's abilities, or at the very least our currently equipped personas. Social links are various bonds we have forged with the people around us. Now, Igor mentioned that the more powerful our social links are, then the stronger our ability to make personas are. And that's somewhat true. You do gain somewhat of a more personas ability. What am I trying to say here? It is in your best interest to raise up the social links, because if you do completely max out a social link, you do gain access to a new persona. However, by just leveling up a social link normally, whenever you create a persona, which we'll get into more later, it does give it more experience points upon creating it. So there is a reason to it, but after you make a persona, social links don't really do all that much. And then system, which allows us to look at what the current calendar is, any sort of requests, which we'll get into later, fusion spells, which we'll also get into later, a dictionary, which shows us important terms, basically in the text, the teal colored text that comes into the dictionary, configurations, and if we want to return to the title. So, with all the menu stuff taken care of, my apologies that took so long, but I feel like that was necessary to go through. Onwards into Tartarus. Yes, we are ready.
So, this is it, huh?
I hope I don't get lost.
Can you all hear me?
Loud and clear.
Whoa, is that you, Senpai?
I'll be providing audio backup from here on out.
Wait, you mean you can see inside here?
It's my persona's ability. I'd like to join you, but the structure of Tartarus changes from day to day. That's why outside support is imperative.
Well, that makes me feel a whole lot better.
Now, based on your current location, you can expect to encounter enemies at any minute. They shouldn't be too tough, but proceed with caution. Practice makes perfect.
Right.
Got it.
Understood.
Why is she always like that?
Now, okay. Thanks, Mitsuru. So that's our current objective, as Mitsuru pointed out. We need to eliminate all the shadows on this floor. Now, as Mitsuru pointed out, Tartarus changes from day to day, and in fact, even within its own structure. Like, even within the same dark hour. It's never just constant. Basically, what this means is that it is a randomly generated dungeon each time you go through it. However, this tutorial aspect is always the same no matter what you do. Now, what we can do is that we can gather chests along the way and we'll get various items, like that medicine we just got. There's also shadows, obviously. Now, it says that we'll gain an advantage if we strike it before it notices us. Basically, what we need to do is to sneak up behind the shadow and use the X button before it becomes alert to us. Now, what this means is that if I wait for it to... it's not going to do it. Well, we don't really gain an advantage right away. But yes, you do want to try to make sure you don't see that exclamation above its head.
Informed me about your power, but nevertheless, you have minimal combat experience. Would you like me to explain the basics of battle?
No, I think I can handle it on my own.
Okay, then I want you to defeat the enemy before you. Try using both the skill and attack options.
So basically, what this is that there are various types of commands that we can do. We can go ahead and issue... well, we can use a skill which allows us to use our currently equipped persona's abilities. We can go to attack and just attack it directly with our currently equipped weapon. Item allows us to use any sort of item we may have picked up or bought. tactics is interesting. What this is that we can issue certain commands for our fellow party members. You don't actually gain control of your party members. They will attack of their own accord, but you can tell them what you want them to do. So currently there are 4 commands: act freely, heal support, assign target, or standby. Act freely means that they will just do whatever it is that they're going to do. Heal support means that they will apply buffs or healing. Assign target means they'll just attack a single shadow. And standby means they will just issue the wait command, which basically means you don't do anything. So what we're gonna do with this shadow is we're gonna freaking Augie him! Kill it with fire!
Yes, the enemy is vulnerable. Attack!
All-out attack!
Let's go for it! All out attack! That was easy.
A complete victory. Great job.
Ooh, and we get a Snuff Soul for that. Snuff Souls are very good. They recover SP, which can be very difficult to try to recover, and are very much useful for how I play this game. Yes, I do, Mitsuru. So the main purpose of exploring Tartarus and each of these floors is to find the stairs. What you want to do is try to find the stairs and climb up as many floors as you can. The higher you go, the more monsters that you will, well, not only more, but the more powerful monsters you'll be able to fight. But it's also how we're going to be able to learn more about Tartarus. So that's our primary goal, but for today, we're just going to be content with killing all the shadows. Now what we want to do is be able to sneak up on this enemy. If we can do that... Aha! That is how you want to approach an enemy. Now normally when you do that, you gain a first
Now's
attack.
a good time for me to explain about attack properties, which are important to consider during battle. Do you want to know more?
I'm fine.
The enemies you're facing have a weakness that you can exploit. Why don't you give it a try?
Okay, so before we go about that, if you hit an enemy before it shows an exclamation mark, then you'll typically gain a first strike, which means all of your party members will attack, and then you'll actually begin turns proper. So, for instance, if you hit down R1, if we actually manage to get the first strike successfully, it would show us, then Yukari, then Junpei, and then the 2 shadows, even though technically the shadows wouldn't get a chance to attack. Now what Mitsuru was, of course, that can also be used against us if a shadow attacks us. If it touches us and we don't have our weapon connected with them, they'll get a first strike. Now what Mitsuru was talking about were attack properties. There are different types of physical attacks and magic attacks. And shadows have different weaknesses depending on what you use. For example, as we saw earlier, these cowardly Mayas were weak to fire. So if we use Augie,
You exploited the
then
enemy's
we'll
weakness.
knock them down. If you knock an enemy down, that means when it comes to be their turn, they'll waste their turn standing up. And if you exploit a weakness, or you get a critical hit, then you get 1 more attack. So now let's go ahead and use Augie on the other shadow. And of course,
Yes.
when you knock down
Enemy
all
is
the
vulnerable.
enemies,
Here's a chance. Let's get him.
you get a chance for an all-out attack. We'll get more into all-out attacks a little bit later.
What a stunning
I'm basically explaining this as Mitsuru is explaining to it. Ooh, a revival bead. Revival bead brings back anyone who's died. Very nice. And we get another medicine. Another thing to keep in mind is that your character is crucial to battle. Like, we got that revival bead, which means that if any of our party members goes down, then we can use that to bring them back. However, if our character goes down, if he loses all of his HP, he doesn't just become knocked unconscious, he dies, and that's game over. So make sure your main character doesn't die, basically.
Were you able to exploit the enemy's weakness in the last battle? If you didn't already notice, doing so will also grant you an additional attack. Would you like more details?
Nope, I already explained it.
Then proceed with the battle. Use what you've learned to quickly dispose of the enemy.
So these cowardly Mayas are very easy to take down. All you gotta really do is exploit the weaknesses. This is basically how many battles are going to go, is trying to figure out the weaknesses of certain shadows, and then exploiting them to not only knock them down, but to gain additional attacks. And then once we knock down all the enemies, then we can go with an all-powerful, all-out attack. That is pretty much how the battles are going to be conducted.
Keep up the good work.
Ooh, shuffle time! Now you remember at the end of last episode? When I said that Igor was talking about something kind of abstract? This is what I was talking about. Occasionally after battle, you will be presented with something called shuffle time. What it does is that there'll be 4 cards laid out in front of us, and they'll have various attributes or personas. And of course, they'll be mixed up and you need to figure out which card is where. So for example, I hit X. What I'm going to want is that persona, so I'm going with this card. And we get the persona, Pixie. Ooh, another Snuff Soul. And a level up! Hooray!
Yes! My skill level has increased!
Da-da-da-da! Junpei is leveled up!
Of course, our comrades also gained level ups. And we get another medicine. Now you'll notice that we leveled up, but Orpheus didn't. Personas level up independently than what we do. So it takes less experience for us to level up than it does for Orpheus to level up. That's not the case with our party members. Their experience is what their respective personas give. So yeah, if they level up, then their personas also level up, since they can't really summon any other personas. There was something else I was going to talk about, and I suddenly forgot. Oh, right. Sometimes it may not be in the best interest to constantly just utilize your own... That would be if you haven't been constantly exploiting weaknesses. Using up skills does take up SP. Using physical attacks utilizes HP. If I can get this in... He was just turning around!
There is a better way to defeat all of your enemies in battle than to attack them individually. You can perform an all-out attack. Would you care to hear more about this?
No, I've been holding it off until you mentioned it.
Then, that concludes the basics of battle. But there's one last thing I need to tell you. Shadows become stronger the further you advance. If you don't think you can win a battle, retreat at once. There may be times, however, when an escape will be impossible. This battle is one of those times. Good luck.
So basically, escape is impossible because this is a tutorial fight. Normally, this only happens during boss battles, but you'll notice that if I go into skills, Bash actually uses up HP. You want to be careful when you use physical attacks, since they do use up your actual health. And then, of course, regular magic skills use up SP. And of course, it's a lot easier to recover HP than SP. So, normally, it wouldn't quite be the best of interest to constantly be using Augie. However, I'm just gonna say this right now, I'm a very heavy magic user. I utilize magic skills constantly. So, yeah. Expect me to really come low on SP very often. Which is why Snuff Souls are among my favorite items. However, since these are regular, just cowardly Mayas, you can go ahead and just Augie them.
You struck the enemy's weak point.
Let's see. If you hit L1, you can actually go and analyze shadows. And this will allow Mitsuru to basically look up information about them and find out what their weaknesses are. Tutorial, not really necessary, but I will be utilizing that in normal battles. I'll also go ahead and start showing off like what our other party members can do. So why don't we just go ahead and bash this shadow and see what our party members are capable of. Let's get him, Morpheus! Ah, crap.
I couldn't defeat it.
3 to go.
Nice! They really don't like Junpei. So yeah, that's basically how these battles are going to work. Our allies will be utilizing skills what they see fit given the circumstances. So, now that you've seen just how they react to battle, let's finish the job!
The enemy is vulnerable. Keep going.
So all we gotta do is just exploit all their weaknesses, and then we can get to an all-out attack. Ah!
Excellent attack.
Here's a chance. Let's get it.
Now, an all-out attack only activates whenever 1, all enemies have been knocked down, and 2, your character is not incapacitated in some way. Like if he's knocked down or suffering some status ailment like confusion or something like that. You'll be able to unleash an all-out attack, which is basically an almighty move. Which I'll get into the different types of spells after we beat these shadows up.
Keep up the good work.
Now, Shuffle Time mostly activates. I know it's pretty much a guarantee, if not really often, if you manage to end a battle with an all-out attack. Or if it just ends on your turn. So, those are 2 very easy ways to get Shuffle Time. If it ends on someone else's turn, then it's a very low chance of having Shuffle Time. But, what I'm going to want, since I already have Pixie, I'm going to want that other card. That card is what's called a Minor Arcana. There are 4 of those types of cards. Which, you know what, we'll get into them a bit more a little bit later. However, what the coin does is that it gives us some extra money. So we just got 540 yen from that. And another Snuff Snow. Hooray!
Yes! My skill level has increased.
Nice.
Da-da-da-da! Junpei is leveled up.
Alright. So that's pretty much it in terms of the battles. And now we're going to try to find access points and also kind of doing a bit of a search option. So if we hit the all magical square button, we can send different commands as to what our party members can do. We can have them split up and have priority to search for shadows. Okay, thanks, Mitsuru. There's also going to be various other things. We can tell them to split up as well and basically just search the floor. Normally, I will not be doing this because if your party members are not close by, then they're not going to be able to engage in battle. So yeah, typically, let's keep going for now because I have a few more things to explain.
Okay, then I'll look around some more.
Going up this way, there's not much. Okay, so now we can regroup the party.
Everyone, return to the leader.
And, Junpei? I guess Junpei is going to give it to us afterwards. We can also talk to our party members, and then we can mess with their equipment. We can only mess with our other party members' equipment if we talk to them, which means if they're in the party or at the base floor of Tartarus. Yukari's a little bit unique since her persona naturally has healing capabilities. We can actually request to be healed by her. We don't really need it, so I'm not going to. Now, like I said before, there are different elements to battles. There are 3 different types of physical attacks, 4 different types of spells, 2 different forms of insta-kill, and then there's Almighty. So, for example, Junpei and I both have swords, so our regular physical attacks would be Slash. Orpheus has the move Bash, which is a crush style attack, and Yukari naturally uses a bow, which causes pierce damage. those are 3 different types of physical attacks, and what an enemy may be weak to one style may be resistant to another. There are also 4 different types of spells: fire, ice, wind, and electricity. There are 2 different types of insta-kills, being light and dark, and then there's almighty, which basically means you can hit any and all enemies with it. I think there may be 1 enemy in the entirety of the game that's resistant to almighty, but it's typically a very safe bet. An all-in attack is an almighty attack, but there are a few spells that deal almighty damage. So, with all that taken care of, let's go ahead and head back. Oh, thanks, Junpei. Okay, looks like we're back.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
So, how was it?
It was no problem at all. We took care of those shadows like it was nothing.
I see. Well, if you gained confidence, that's the best thing you could have achieved.
Especially since I did most of the work. Although we did do pretty well as an all-out attack.
Wow, I never knew I had that kind of power. We kicked some ass. But damn, I'm beat.
That's because you were bouncing around like a little kid.
Yeah, you look pretty tired yourself, Yucatan.
I'm still trying to catch my breath, actually.
That's the effect of the dark hour. You'll become fatigued more easily. Don't worry though, you'll adapt. But I'm surprised. You all did much better than I expected. At this rate, they'll catch up to you in no time, Akihiko.
We'll see about that.
And with that vote of confidence, thou art I, and I am thou. Thou shalt have our blessing when thou choosest to create a persona of the Fool Arcana. So after our first trip into Tartarus, the Fool social link has reached level 2. And now there's nothing really much more to do. Mitsuru does bring up a good point, and that is how you become fatigued. You get the tired status ailment from staying too long into Tartarus. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. There are various points in the game where we will want to be tired. But for the most part, in terms of battle, if we're going to Tartarus, it is a very bad idea to be tired. And also, your fellow party members can also be tired if they spend too long in Tartarus. And if they're tired, they're going to opt to not be in the party. If they're tired and you choose to go anyway, then they'll still be here in front of the entrance, but typically, they're not going to join you. They'll say, dude, I'm tired, I'm not going. So yeah, you'll want to be careful about how long you spend in Tartarus, not only for your own health, but for the health of your companions. But, now that we've gotten a taste of Tartarus, we've gotten a little bit of battle experience down, and we've gotten us a new persona in the form of Pixie. Pixie's kind of meh, but still, it's a new persona. So that will do it for this episode. So, next time on Let's Play Persona 3 FES, we are going to leave Tartarus and move on the next day in school. It is a Monday after all. So until next time, everyone, take care.